multi-bind did work for me with the two radios to be able to be used for backup. Here's the Crossfire Micro TX version 2. This is the full Crossfire. I've just got them on two different COM ports so I can have them connected to the computer at the same time. If we look up here on the screen, you can see here's the full-size transmitter, and here's the micro transmitter. Here's the Wi-Fi inside the Micro TX. We'll look at this one first. This is the full-size transmitter. We look under frequency here. You'll see that multi-bind is enabled on this Crossfire. If we look down at about, we can see that there is a user ID. This right here will be what is used in the module to bind with the receiver instead of a unique ID from each radio. If you don't have multi-bind on, then each radio will send a set of numbers that is unique to it. So now then we'll look over here in the Micro TX under frequency again, and you can see again here multi-bind is enabled. And if you look at about here, you'll see also we have that same 5-digit number. So instead of a unique 5-digit number coming from one transmitter to the other, to the receiver, this one number is used by both transmitters to talk to all the receivers. So all of these receivers in this list should be bound to both radios. And with multi-bind turned on, supposedly in the future, if for some reason, I don't know, on a firmware change, whatever, something comes unbound, if you rebind with one receiver, all the rest of them will be fine again. Under settings, under the Wi-Fi, for the first time in life, I finally got a connection today, and I upgraded my Wi-Fi from version 1.17 to 2.02. Don't want to get too far off on that discussion, but it is pertinent for some upcoming information where I'm using the Wi-Fi to share the Mavlink data. I never actually got that running either. Anyway, I was just real quick scanning to see if the Wi-Fi module would see anything in the room. Anyway, so there is where the multi-bind is set up inside each of the transmitters in frequency. Multi-bind, multi-bind. Now let's see if it works for what I was discussing last night, as far as using the one radio and transmitter as a backup for the other one in the field. Now we'll look at this in practice. Right through here, you can see the red light on the RC receiver. Right there. And also I'm attached in the Mission Planner software, oops, up on the screen. So we turn on this radio. It's not the proper sequence for doing this.
Welcome to OpenTX.
But it is for this test. And you see it binds up. And now I'm going to overlay a little bit of the screen so we can see that these sticks also control, the radio is controlling the platform. There is pass-through to the flight controller. And when I shut down the radio here, that green light right there is going to go out. connecting, but just set that radio down, pick this radio up, turn it on, and we'll overlay on the other side this time.
Welcome to OpenTX.
There it is connected. If I overlay the video a little bit, you can see when I move these sticks, again, I have full control over the platform. Again, when I shut down this radio, this little green light above my thumb, right there, is going to disconnect, of course. So there is the proof that multi-bind did allow me just to use these two radios as interchangeably as I want. I've played with it by turning them both on at the same time. Whichever one binds with the receiver first has control. If one is shut off after that, the other one will bind and take control. So it will work as a great backup in the field due to the Crossfire multi-bind function, which works awfully darn well. Okay, this part has to do more with the TBS Agent X. That's where you set up the original multi-bind. This is the page right up here, and I'll put a link to it in the video description, is where you set up TBS Agent X so that you have a cloud connection and you can use TBS Agent X to keep all these multiple RC transmitters and receivers all bound using a single 5-digit ID number is what it all boils down to. So you'll need a Crossfire transmitter that's running firmware version 3.70 or later with a Wi-Fi module. You have to download TBS Agent X and create a user account, and then log in with that account. And of course, you need an internet connection. This right here tells you how inside the Micro TX firmware for the transmitter itself to make sure you're on a version later than 3.70. It said here it says 3.71, but up here it says 3.70 beta. Anyway, then after the update of the firmware, you wait for Agent X to resynchronize with your transmitter. Then you go into the Wi-Fi section of the TBS Micro TX V2. The big Crossfire transmitter has a Bluetooth in it. I'll have to look at how you do this at Bluetooth. Anyway, in there, inside the Wi-Fi portion of the Micro TX, it will update from the cloud a user ID. This is not the user ID it's going to use. And as it says here, after that gets populated, you have to wait until that gets populated. This user ID will be the unique binding ID. Each transmitter with this user ID can now bind to your receivers on the same firmware version. And see, they all have to be matching firmware versions, it sounds like here. So you go back into your transmitter then under general at that time. Now it's under frequency. And enable the multi-bind option. It says repeat this step for every Crossfire transmitter that you own. And then it talks about if you have to disable multi-bind, just go in and disable it. Just let you do the receiver rebind by the button after that if you want to. There is a way right here to get a new ID. Doesn't really tell you how. Wrong ID, new ID. It may occur that you need a new ID. To get a new ID, simply connect your Crossfire to the Agent X with a new correct user account and let it synchronize. I guess that's somebody creates multiple accounts. Anyway, I'll put this link in it. There are a few steps to getting TBS Agent X ready to do the multi-bind, for the multi-bind function to come up. But again, that has more to do with TBS Agent X. And as you can see, when I start TBS Agent X, it just connects to the internet and starts loading my cloud profile in. And now I'm sitting there with all the data actually right now just from the cloud, because I don't have anything connected at all. I won't get a green currently connected status up here in the right corner. So I know that doesn't explain a lot about how to get your TBS Agent X working with the cloud and the multi-bind, but seeing I did that 3 to 6 months ago, I really don't remember. By the way, even though I power down my computer every night, I never click log out on this. And also I've seen on a lot of other sites, everybody should always click this include beta firmware. TBS really doesn't put out any bad firmware. They never have yet. So that's all I really have to say about this video, and the fact that TBS multi-bind has really got me in really good RC transmitter and RC receiver shape right now. Thanks for watching.